Hey pal, here to read you another story. Daddy loves you so much, and so does Mommy, and wants you to know that we miss you just as much as you miss us. And we're excited to see you when we get home and tell each other about our adventures, and you can tell us about your camp and about your play and everything. And Mommy and Daddy are gonna bring you presents and all that. So we're very excited. So remember to think about the fun stuff you're having. It's okay to miss us, but remember the fun stuff, okay? Because we'll be home soon before you know it. I love you so much. So today we're going to read Calvin Can't Fly. Look at those birds. Calvin Can't Fly by Jennifer Byrne, illustrated by Keith Bendis. Calvin is a starling. He was born under the eaves of an old barn with his 3 brothers, 4 sisters, and 67,432 cousins. Starlings have a big family. Right from the beginning, Calvin was different. Right from the day that all the little starlings tumbled out of their nest to discover the world. Charlie discovered worms, Adeline discovered grass, Clement discovered dirt, Aubrey discovered water, and Calvin discovered a book. Looks like a book about dinosaurs. Whoops, bumped my camera. Whoops. While all of Calvin's cousins chased beetles, bugs, and ants, Calvin was learning to read letters and words and sentences. He sits funny when he's reading books, but that's cool. At night, his cousins dreamed of eating insects and garbage picking. Calvin dreamed of adventure stories, legends, and poetry. He even dreamed that someday he'd become a great writer himself. On June 1st, when all the little starlings lined up for flying lessons with their teacher, Mr. Wingstead, Calvin was nowhere to be seen. "Where's that bird?" Looks like Mr. Wingstead wondering where he is. Actually, Calvin was at the library. Looks like there was a bird and a porcupine and a beaver and a frog and a mouse too. As other little starlings were learning to swoop and hover and fly figure eights, Calvin buried his beak in books. Calvin read about pirates and cavemen, volcanoes and rainbows, whales and dinosaurs. Calvin especially loved dinosaurs. He learned how the planets circle the sun, what makes the wind blow, and amazing facts like how caterpillars grow up to become butterflies. His books took him places wings never could, and his heart fluttered with excitement. Calvin's cousins called him Nerdy Birdie and Bookworm. And when you're being called when you're a bird, being called a worm is a very bad thing. Calvin ruffled his feathers and mumbled, "Oh, how the wounding words of scorn do sting." Then he sadly waddled back to the library, the one place where he felt happy. And so he spent all summer reading, learning, and absorbing everything his little starling mind could. Until the first leaf turned orange and fell to the ground. The fall wind sent a chill through the old barn. Summer's nest blew to the floorboards. It was time to head south. His cousins warned, "Calvin, you better learn to fly. In a couple of days we've got to be out of here." Calvin said, "Ah, yes, migration. I've read about that." His sister asked, "Calvin, can you fly?" Calvin had to admit that he couldn't. All the other starlings took off in a giant formation, but Calvin could only stand and watch. A big, lonely tear rolled down his cheek. Taken off from the barn, Calvin turned and trudged back toward the library, toward the old barn. He was so upset he didn't even notice his brothers and sisters and cousins coming back to get him. All of a sudden, they were tying up Calvin's middle with string and scraps of cloth they found in the garbage. They grasped the other end with their beaks, and off they flew with Calvin, somewhat embarrassed, safely in tow. For days and days they flew. Calvin recognized the rivers, mountains, and towns he had read about all summer. Excitedly, he pointed them out to his brothers and sisters and cousins, but the other little starlings just flapped their wings and headed south. Soon there came a day when the winds blew especially hard. Trees bent sideways, leaves scattered wildly. Flying became harder and harder. The air had an odd smell to it. The smell of danger. Calvin, remembering back to his favorite weather book, warned the rest of his family. "A hurricane is coming! A hurricane is coming!" All his brothers and sisters and cousins asked, "What's a hurricane?" Calvin explained as quickly as his little beak could, "We need to get out of the path of that violent tropical weather system which is storming up the coast at a tremendous speed and will not diminish until it encounters large stretches of landmass. Everybody make haste for that cave." They had no idea what Calvin was saying, but they had to admit it did sound real. So the flock made a loop-de-doop left and a dipsy-doodle right and dove into the cave. They did everything Calvin told them to. To their amazement, a great storm did blow across the land. It thundered over the mountains and roared through the villages. It smashed and crashed, rumbled and raged, just as Calvin had predicted. The whole big starling family gathered together, watching in fear and awe. The storm finally ended. The sun came out in the sky, and the starlings came out of their cave. They were safe and sound, all because of Calvin. They celebrated with a great starling party in honor of Calvin. They ate big, juicy worms and yummy, crunchy beetles. They danced and sang songs about how Calvin had saved their lives. They toasted Calvin with acorn caps filled with fresh, clear mountain water. Calvin was so happy and felt so good deep down inside that he jumped and hopped and danced and flapped his wings and flapped his wings and flapped his wings, and all the other starlings looked at him in amazement. "Calvin, you can fly!" they exclaimed. And Calvin, the happiest starling in the whole world, chirped, "Why, yes, I do believe I can." And they all flew south with big, wide smiles on their little starling faces, especially Calvin. There's Calvin. All right, buddy. So we hope to see you soon, and we will see you soon, I should say. We're very excited to hear about everything you did at your camp and all the fun you had with Grandma and your cousins. We love you so much, and we miss you, and we're going to give you huge, big hugs when you get back, and cuddle and talk and eat popcorn and pancakes and everything. It's going to be great. I love you so much. See you soon. Bye. Hug.